I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order, the February 17th. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is roll call.
Chairman Severs.
Present.
Vice Chairman Spidell. Present. Secretary Richardson.
Present.
Member Grant.
Present.
Member Parrish. Member Porter.
Present.
Alternate Member Riley.
Present.
Alternate Member Rice.
We do have a quorum, and since we have one vacancy on the commission, alternate member Rice, you will be filling that position. And since we have one person absent, member Riley, you likewise will be filling in and serving as a regular member. The next, before we proceed further, if we could read the notice to the public in connection with this meeting.
In order to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 coronavirus and to comply with all local, state, and federal laws and guidelines regarding social distancing rules, designated seating shall be provided for the public at Planning and Zoning Commission and other city boards meetings. Individual speakers shall, when directed to do so, be given the opportunity to speak on agenda items during the meetings in accordance with the City of Titusville Policies and Resolution Number 36-2020. No tripods, easels, props, or other demonstrative aids shall be brought into the public meetings of Planning and Zoning Commission and city boards. Speakers are permitted to have a sign with them during their designated speaking time, provided that the sign is held by the speaker and is to be removed at the conclusion of their speaking time. Speakers who appear in person will be subject to screening for symptoms of COVID-19, and any persons exhibiting any symptoms of COVID-19 will not be permitted to enter City Hall or public meetings of Planning and Zoning Commission and city boards. As an additional method for public participation, the public may submit written comments via email to planning@titusville.com or by regular mail to Planning and Zoning Commission's attention at City Hall, 555 South Washington Avenue, Titusville, Florida 32796. Written comments must be received by 12 noon prior to the start of the meeting and include the sender's name, address, and the subject line must specify the agenda item being addressed. All comments will be disseminated to the Planning and Zoning Commission members and made a part of the public record prior to any action being taken. All persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedure adopted in Resolution Number 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the recording secretary.
The first item, the next item is approval of the minutes. As I do have a couple of comments, but first, does anyone else have any additions, corrections, or comments concerning the minutes? I do not see any lights. The first, whenever I reviewed the minutes, and I'm looking now at on page 5 of our agenda, which is page 1 of the minutes, where I had brought up about the bylaws and the Planning and Zoning Commission relating to alternates having the ability to participate. Obviously, they couldn't vote, but they could participate in the discussion and provide input. I explained what I had in mind, and I did review, what I recalled was that since there was consensus to proceed with an amendment to the bylaws, then it was agreed we would go ahead and proceed. And the item, as suggested by the attorney, could be on the next agenda, which is tonight. Just for the record, in addition to myself, Member Richardson concurred, Member Spidell concurred in the record, as well as Member Grant concurred with proceeding. I do not see in here, towards the end of that paragraph, a consensus that we would proceed with it. If anyone wants to double check the video, feel free to do so, but I did double check it twice, and that's what it said. So I would respectfully suggest that that there was consensus to proceed with an amendment to the bylaws. That doesn't mean they're going to be changed, but we would proceed. The other recommendation I had, and I had sent this to staff on February 15th, and you will see it before you. I would suggest at page 11 of the minutes, page 15, there appears to be a verbatim transcript made of some conversations by the commission, and I would respectfully suggest that it should be amended. The minutes are not intended to be verbatim transcripts, and I would suggest in lieu of the language included in the minutes that it indicate Vice Chair Spidell commented she had watched the January 26th council meeting and was concerned about some of the comments about Planning and Zoning Commission members, and was concerned about sending a Planning and Zoning member to the City Council meeting since they had not been invited. So I would suggest we make those changes to properly reflect. Yes.
I would like to add to the discussion regarding the amendment of the minutes in a more general sense. Chairman Severs and I had a conversation regarding this point, and at our staff meeting this week, we also had a discussion regarding the comments that were made that you see in front of you tonight. And in reviewing Robert's Rules of Order and what is prescribed for minutes of a meeting such as ours, I would just like to go over what is recommended by Robert's Rules and add it for your information, and then to hopefully either get a motion or consensus that this board agrees to returning to a more concise set of minutes. And so I'll go on to elaborate on what I'm talking about here. Meeting minutes recording the actions taken by this board are a fundamental part of the meeting process. And the guidelines that are suggested for meeting minutes in local government are as follows. Minutes should record what is done, not what is said. And so what is recommended is action minutes rather than a discussion of everything that is said. And it will be a much shorter set of minutes because it won't go over all of those details that are brought up by members. This document further says, we recommend that boards and councils do not keep detailed minutes. These are generally a waste of time, effort, and resources. We have to thank Lori for all of the hard work that she does putting into these minutes, and I'm not going to describe the physical result of what she has talked to us about, but she feels it in her fingers. And I think that it would be better for the record to have just action items rather than all verbatim discussions. What to include in minutes continues to say, meeting minutes should include each main motion and its disposition, whether it was passed, failed, referred to committee, postponed, or etc. Minor procedural motions such as approving the agenda or calling the question do not need to be included. putting something on the record is a privilege of this body, but personal opinions do not belong in the minutes. The body may vote to include anything that it chooses in the record, and that may be specifically stated in the meeting, and that will be something that will be called out for the minutes, if that is clarified by this board. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. Do you have any questions? Woody?
Yes, Mr. Rice.
The video that is taken, how long is that available? Is that a permanent record?
It is. It's on YouTube. You can go and find it. And we also have DVDs, you know, the permanent record kept by the city. But when we record something and it's displayed on YouTube, as far as I know, it's in indefinite retention unless the server crashes or something of that nature. But we don't routinely take them down. But we also don't have videos from prior to, I think, 2015 or 16, when we started utilizing YouTube. So for as long as we've been using it, I know that those records are available for all of the boards that have their meetings publicized on YouTube, such as the code enforcement meetings, but the TEC is not. So it depends on which board. For planning and zoning, we've always televised this board meeting and therefore always had it available on YouTube. And there's only a select few that were not available on YouTube because of technical difficulties.
Well, I'm not too concerned about YouTube, but I want to know if it's a permanent record, okay? And if it's on a server, do you back the server up where we always have a backup of
I
what
believe the
transpired at these meetings?
I believe the answer to that is yes, but I'd have to confirm with them as far as how long they keep them, because I don't know that that retention is indefinite.
Okay, so if I wanted to know verbatim what was said at a meeting, I could go back to the video record and watch that because it is a permanent record.
We do
is
have
what I'm
those
hearing.
records available. I don't know what the retention period is.
Okay, well, that would.
It's going to be important, yes.
That would be very important to know what the
Right.
retention is of those records.
would
Because
guess
the
that it's
written minutes are probably, I'm sure you have minutes all the way back from years ago.
It depends on if the meeting was recorded. I've asked for minutes and videos of meetings as far back as 2005 and 6 and received those videos. And so I know that they are available. I don't know if there's any process or routine for getting rid of those older records, but I think it just depends on when the technology became available.
Okay.
And then the quality of the video relates to the date of when it was made, of course.
Sure.
Okay, Member Richardson.
I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, Chelsea, because, years ago, I was teaching Robert's Rules of Order in different clubs and organizations. And since I was on council many, many years ago, council and the city clerk was very specific about following Robert's Rules of Order. And I think we and the council have veered from that course. In fact, some of the minutes look like talking points. And they were sent to council before he had a chance to even review them and make corrections. And I think going over again, the requirement of Robert's Rules of Order was an excellent thing to do, and I support it 100%.
Member Grant.
I agree 100% with Mr. Richardson. Considering some of the comments that I make, I'm grateful that they're not included in the minutes, so yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I understood, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, it's not appropriate to include personal opinions. And I think to the extent the minutes reflect that, that's going astray. I do think we certainly should and need a record of the action. Council, I believe, once, if we state, I move to support something with X, Y, Z conditions, and someone is explaining that condition, I think that should be included. That may be a little bit beyond Robert's Rules of Order, but council, as I understand it, and we have requested that our view be presented. For example, I can give you countless illustrations on these minutes alone. For example, we had a petition request from a member of the public here. The chairperson Member Parrish raised point of order. I ruled on the point of order concerning, none of that is in these minutes. So I really do not understand why these comments are in the minutes, because the example I gave you probably was more appropriate to include a point of order, et cetera. So I think we want to make sure the minutes reflect our actions and the reasons for our actions, and personal commentary should be left out. That's my personal view. Does anyone else have any additions, corrections, comments concerning the subject? If so, I can either pass the gavel, or would somebody be willing to make the motion to amend the minutes as I had recommended in those two locations? Member Richards.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes with the recommendation of changes that you made to the minutes.
Member Spidell.
I second.
Any further comment or discussion? Yes, Mr. Rice.
Couple questions for staff regarding participation of alternates in the discussion only. Was it clear that that was the wishes? Because that's the way I understood it too at the meeting, was that there was sort of a consensus, but should we take a more precise action to make sure it's very clear that that's the desire of this body?
I think that the clarity was provided when it was given in writing.
Okay, you think this is acceptable clarity?
Would you agree? I would think so.
Okay.
Mr. Rice, I think I tend to follow if I see a majority, which occurred, people agreed with moving forward with an amendment. I said consensus. We could always make a motion, and that the way it's even clear, but I think you can do things by consensus. And there was no objection to moving forward, as I understood. Okay, let's have a roll call on the, excuse me, our clerk, go ahead.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Porter?
Yes.
Secretary Richardson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Spidell?
Yes.
Member Rice?
Yes.
Chairman Severs?
Yes. According to the agenda, we have two items that are quasi-judicial, so I will read the quasi-judicial confirmation procedures. Item 9A and B are certain items of old or new business may be public hearing items. Individuals desiring to speak on these items must fill out an oath card and sign the oath contained thereon. Those cards are located near the entrance to the council chambers or can be obtained from the recording secretary. Some items which are identified as the chair, which I've just identified, those individuals desiring to speak in favor shall speak first, those opposed second, and those who have the public comment third. The quasi-judicial proceeding will be conducted in accordance with the procedures adopted in Resolution Number 24-1997. Recording Secretary, do we have any oath cards signed up thus far?
No, sir.
Okay, if you want to speak on an item, make sure you come forward and fill out an oath card. Staff, have all public hearing items been properly advertised?
Yes.
Thank you. Has any commission member visited the site or spoken to any members of the public regarding a quasi-judicial item? In the event a member has received an ex parte communication, the identity of the person should be identified and disclosed, including any opinions or facts. Any written communication must be made a part of the record. Proceeding on to item 9A. Staff?
Thank you. I'll just read the summary, which begins on page 20 of 75 of tonight's agenda. A petition has been received from Jeffrey and Jill Jossel, owner, to vacate 5 feet of a 10-foot public utility and drainage easement that encircles the property at 1036 Katy Circle. The applicants are proposing to install a swimming pool. The applicant proposes to leave the remaining 5 feet of the public utility and drainage easement for utility and drainage purposes. A 10-foot public utility and drainage easement contiguous to the rear lot line was established in the approved plat plan of Bent Oak at Meadow Ridge, Plat Book 51, page 87. And that concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Any questions for staff? I don't see any questions for staff. Does anyone in the public like to be heard on this item? I don't see any. Coming back to the commission, any comments, questions by the commission? Yes, Mr. Rice.
Yeah, I looked at, I pulled up the construction documents when this was built and noticed a couple things that, just so share my knowledge with you all. The actual pond, banks of the volume on this pond was outside the property lines of this site. So the 10-foot drainage easement that's in the back of these lots is really there for maintenance more than anything. It has nothing to do with volume on this property at all. But I also read the plat, and the plat is very clear. It says public utility and drainage easements. But then I looked at the HOA documents, and it also mentions in there that the HOA has jurisdiction on these, and it appeared to me St. John's River Water Management District also had that. That to vacate any of those or change any of those, take both the HOA and St. John's River Water Management District approval. Now, I also am aware, though, that there's a state statute that says local governments can't ask for verification of state agency approvals on things when they're considering development orders. I don't know if that applies to right-of-way vacations, but all I want to do is forewarn the applicant is that just because they might get the city of Titusville approval for the vacation doesn't mean that they don't have a problem with St. John's and the HOA that they need to clear up before they impact that easement. So that's just, when I looked at those documents, that's what glared out at me. I have really no problem at all with vacating it. I just want to make sure the applicant is clear that, hey, they might have more steps to go through that they're not aware of.
I believe in
Okay, staff, go ahead.
I believe in reviewing the easement application, should there have been any concerns or any permitting or additional permitting that needed to be done by the St. John's River Water Management District or from the homeowners association, we would have the applicant seek that type of permitting.
Because it was in their covenant, in their declarations and covenants for the HOA. So that's the only reason I looked at it and wanted to see what impact it had to those documents.
Council, do you want to weigh in whether we should include that as a part of our conditions or just ask staff to advise the applicant accordingly?
I would go with it, including it as a condition.
Pardon?
I would go with including it as a condition.
Okay, okay. Any further discussion on the item?
I believe the applicant wants to fill out a card and speak. You can speak and fill out the card later.
Yes.
So as far as the HOA is concerned, we've already got the HOA approval for the pool, or for the easement area. As for the St. John's River area, we had contacted the city earlier, and they had done a permissible requirement or allowability to our lot. I can't remember the exact percentage that we're allowed, but we're still within a couple hundred square feet of using up our permissible property from a St. John's River standpoint. So I don't know whether that means we need to go to the St. Johns River board or group. Not sure. It's all new to us, so.
Mr. Rice?
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if you were to impact this and St. John's came out and did an inspection, which they do periodically for compliance for the stormwater that the HOA is responsible for, and they saw that you impacted a drainage easement next to this pond, it may create problems for you. So I think it's worth at least a phone call to St. John's River Water Management District, okay? It's a state agency that really we have nothing to do with at all. But I just want to make sure that, you get good guidance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, coming back to the commission, any additional questions, comments? Not, Member Grant?
So if I understand this correctly, we're going to include, let me see if I can put this right. Is this going to be standard for all vacations or just particular one?
This
About
particular one.
contacting-
This particular one.
Okay, all right.
Okay, do we have anyone that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve vacation as stipulated in 9A, easement 6, 2020-1036, Katy Circle, with a condition that the easement receives approval or inspection from St. John's Water Management District.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Wright, did you also indicate needed concurrence of the Homeowners Association? I haven't reviewed the documents.
Right, I just think it's important that the applicant has documents in their file showing that the HOA approved this and St. John's has no issue with this. I don't know that we have jurisdiction over either one of those, okay? So I don't know if we need to make this a condition. But I'm just trying to share with them to keep them out of any trouble with compliance with other agencies, what they need to really do.
Okay. Member Richardson, did you have something else? Okay. For the motion does not include the Homeowners Association, but we've discussed it for the record. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
up over here.
Yes, sir.
The way that the condition is worded is going to be very difficult to enforce. It'll be difficult for the city to verify whether St. John's has gone out there. We couldn't even force St. John's to go out there to approve it. So my suggestion is that the responsibility be placed on the applicant to ensure that all approvals are received from St. John's.
Can we do that by saying that with the advice that the homeowner take care of those two conditions? Can the
Yeah.
council,
Yes, ma'am. I mean,
Okay.
that would, the
Advise?
city would not follow up on that. It would just be a recommendation to the homeowner. And really, it could just be a recommendation rather than a condition, because the condition implies that the city would then enforce it.
right, no, I don't want it city enforced. But I think what everybody is suggesting, including Mr. Rice, is that we don't agree to this and then have the homeowner in the middle, have somebody come back on them, an agency come back on them.
Agreed. So if you would like to include that as a recommendation to the
And use the
homeowner,
word recommendation? Okay.
right, rather
Yes.
than as a condition,
Not as a condition, but a recommendation.
that would be my advice.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
So the motion is amended accordingly, is that correct?
Correct.
And the second? Yes. Concurs, okay. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
The recommendations, do they have to be approved in writing, or can it be verbal like the applicant said he did with the homeowners association?
As I understand, this is just a recommendation to the, and the city will not be following up to verify whether it's been done or not.
Then what is the purpose then? I mean,
We're just putting the homeowner on notice. That's all we're doing.
just doesn't seem to have any value added, the reason what I'm
Yes,
saying.
sir.
All right.
Any further discussion? Member Rice?
Yeah, I mean, that is the intent of what I was trying to say, is just a recommendation to HOA, because I don't think we have jurisdiction for either one of those, okay? And there's state statute that says local governments can't have jurisdiction over state agencies and asking for permitting or anything. So I agree with staff that it should not be a condition, but it should, I purely bring it up so the applicant is aware that this is an issue and help guide them through a process that sometimes is not easy process to go through with everybody.
The city, as Woody has stated, does not have the authority or jurisdiction to impose approval of a permit by another agency, but the condition or recommendation could state that the city recommends notice be provided to those respective agencies of the changes to the site, so that the St. John's River Water Management District and the HOA could respond accordingly as they see fit. And putting these other bodies on notice at the action of the property owner, the applicant, would leave the city out of it, but we could still ask for that communication to transpire.
Right. Well, as I construe the motion, that is the intent of the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Let's have a roll call.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Secretary Richardson?
Yes.
Member Porter?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Rice?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Spidel? Yes. Chairman Severs?
Yes. Next item, 9B, another easement, portion of a drainage easement as such. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Once again, I'll just read the background on this, which begins on page 42 of you all's agenda. A petition has been received from Prashant Patel, owner, to vacate a portion of the 54-foot public retention easement. The applicant is proposing to vacate 10 feet of the 54-foot wide easement for the installation of a porch. An unpermitted concrete pad for a patio was installed on the northeast corner of the home before the applicant was notified that a permit must be obtained for the patio. Upon obtaining the permit for the patio, the applicant was told that an easement vacation for the retention pond to the rear of the property was needed for the permitting of the patio. In reviewing the easement vacation application, it was determined that the applicant would need to submit a drainage report from the St. John's River Water Management District indicating that vacating the easement would not impede the drainage flow of the retention pond. The applicant did provide the drainage report, and it was accepted by the city's engineer. The applicant originally submitted a proposed improvement with the inclusion of stairs that would be located towards the rear of the improvement. The initial easement vacation requested was to vacate 15 feet of the 54-foot public retention easement. As a result, the associated utility letters with the request demonstrates a 15-foot vacation. The applicant later modified dimensions of the request to 10 feet. Staff did not feel that the modified request warranted the need for revised utility letters. The applicant proposes to leave the remaining 44 feet of the retention easement for drainage purposes. No objections to the easement vacation portion of the 54-foot wide public retention easement on the property located at 2820 St. Mark's Drive. That concludes my presentation. I'll be able to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions at this stage? Member Richardson?
Just a point of clarification. As I recall, this backs up to the property that is an assisted living facility, right?
Yes, sir.
Will that affect the assisted living facility in any way?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, any other questions at this stage? Otherwise, I would, do we have any member of the public? I don't think we have any cards, is that correct?
No, sir.
So open the public hearing and close it, since we do not have any cards. As I had posed a number of questions to staff, you can see the responses. You received those from staff. As such, I still have a number of concerns, but any other commissioners want to go ahead? Any comments or concerns? You may. Go ahead, Mr. Rice.
Just staff, have all the engineering calculations been signed and sealed? Because they're
Mr.
not
Rice, I
in this
didn't,
document.
Mr. Rice, I couldn't quite hear.
Have all the engineering calculations that were done to solidify that it has no impact on the treatment volumes, have those documents been signed and sealed by a professional engineer?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
The drainage report was done by a certified engineer as well as our city
Well,
engineer.
I know Sid's a civil engineer, a PE, just the documents in here are not signed and sealed. I
see,
just want to make
I
sure
see.
that you guys have signed and sealed documentation on files, because they need to be signed and sealed.
Understood.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Well, just with regard to maybe some of your concerns, I saw the responses. In my opinion, if they hire an engineer, it looks like they did the right thing. They contacted St. John's. I looked at the file in St. John's, see if they've had their approval. I looked at some of those and some of the calculations. And as long as other people along that body can hire an engineer, certify that it has no impact to the volume and treatment volume, I think other people do have the right to come in and ask for like consideration, okay? Because I think that was one of your concerns. If everyone along here did it, would the addition of all those have enough impact that could cause a stormwater treatment issue, okay? And as long as a professional engineer signs and seals documents and can quantify it, then we're okay, okay? It's when they can't quantify it that we have to say, no, we can't do that now.
Anyone else have any concerns or comments? Part of my concern is the brief drainage report, which is on page 56. It appeared to me, and I certainly could be wrong, it's based upon the original plan's calculations. When we look at the documents itself, we can clearly see that the bottom of the retention pond is not 15.5 feet. Currently today, it's 17 to 18 feet. And as I understand it from the city historically, retention ponds do need to be cleaned periodically every 15 to 20 years. This has been more than 30 years. I don't see a calculation, and maybe there is, as to the pond as configured today. Does it have storage volume of 2.94 acre feet? The original plan did, but it's been filled over time or whatever. And so this engineering report is making an assumption that it's not going to have an impact based upon the original drawings. And I agree, it doesn't. But that's not the reality of the pond today. And I would think we need what the calculation is today to know whether or not it currently meets the 2.94 acre feet of storage volume. And if it doesn't, and you're filling a part of it, that's a problem. And I still have a major problem with, if you allow one person to do it, everybody up and down along there has the thought that they can do the same thing also. In addition, do we know when the concrete, I see there was as noted in the materials, apparently there was an intrusion into the drainage easement at the time of the original construction by a couple of feet. They covered a porch. And now, recently, there's been a new slab poured, apparently without a permit. Is that correct? How did the city get attention to this issue?
So that, yes, that concrete slab, that original concrete slab that was poured, when code enforcement went out there, they notified him that he needed to have that permitted. Upon him retrieving the permit for that concrete slab, he was then notified again that he would need to vacate that easement.
You see, that's a red flag to me. If a neighbor complained, which apparently a neighbor did complain, for code enforcement to come out, that's a problem. That, in addition, if we're going to permit this, apparently the gentleman wanted to have some steps. I would think at the line, the property line where it goes down, you have your steps there, and then if you want to have some stones or whatever down below, at least you have the volume there, and they can soak through the stones, rather than filling it in by 2 to 3 feet, which is what has already occurred. I mean, you can see the intrusion into the retention area. I think it's a problem. So, I mean, I honestly have trouble supporting this when, one, I don't think we have engineering information that shows that the storage volume is there. And number two, I think there was another way of doing this and retaining the storage volume by having steps down and then and using that area. I think there was an easy way of doing that. I realize apparently someone poured a slab without a permit into the retention area. But I think we have to worry about everybody else. I have in the back of my mind, and I may be wrong, of a complaint a number of years ago about some flooding or problems out in Cathedral Pines, whether it's this retention pond or another one, I don't know. But I remember hearing a complaint and some problems with drainage and some flooding as such. So I think we have to be sure what we're doing here. Member Rice, did you have an additional comment?
Well, I do. I guess either you saw something I did not see, because I didn't see anything here that indicated that any of this pond had ever been filled in to a different elevation. What I saw was that there was a difference in datums from 1988 to 29 datum, and it's 1.3 feet, which is correct, and that's why there's a difference in those elevations. But, I mean, I must have missed something in the report, because I just didn't see where the elevation has gone a couple feet up in this retention pond, okay? The other thing to note in this area is that the plat clearly said that typically when you design a subdivision, you don't know what's going to be built on the subdivision, okay? So you have a maximum impervious area per lot. And that maximum impervious area on the lot, as long as you don't exceed that, that's the amount of impervious surface that the treatment pond was designed for per lot to meet the volume for the thing. So, and I think in this record, it was 5195 was, let me pull it back up. I lost it here for a second. It was the plat said 5,581 square feet per lot was allowed of impervious surface. Now, I totally agree. Did they build stuff without a permit? Absolutely. Is that a code violation? Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Rice, look at page 63 of our agenda, and off to the lower right-hand corner, it shows permitted pond bottom, 15.5 feet. existing pond bottom 17 feet. 25-year, 24-hour storm elevation 18 feet. Well, that's correct for the storage volume between the 15.5 and 18. But as you can see, just looking at what's been submitted to us, the pond has gone from 15.5 to 17 feet. Because they clearly say existing pond bottom. So how is there the storage volume here available? 65, you have to blow it up, it's on the 63, excuse me, 63. I mean, clearly that reflects what the permitted bottom was to be. It clearly reflects existing pond bottom. And it reflects the 25-year, 24-hour storm. And I believe all that is based upon the original calculations. So what is the elevation to have that storage volume as it exists today? It's bound to be different. And we do not have that information, as I see it. Mr. Rice, you have a comment.
No, I see what you're looking at now, and I did not see that detail with those two different elevations in there. I guess my concern now is, it says permitted pond bottom of 15.5.
Yes.
And I see that at the bottom now. That's permitted. What's important, staff, is going to be to get the as-built of what was certified at the end of the construction period. Because if there was during construction, this pond was modified and the amount of treatment that's being provided was changed during construction and was modified by an engineer, that's important to know. I don't know why it says permit, it doesn't say as-built, and that bothers me a little bit there. I think as-built conditions, we need to know what the original as-built condition is. And St.
And
John's will
I
have
think
that.
it's 30 years later, and that's bound to be different.
It possibly could be.
Member Spidell.
I have a question to staff. So if we deny this, and it's kind of another situation of after the fact in permitting, and I understand that people do that, and there's been obviously a complaint from, I'm assuming, a surrounding property. Are we allowed to know that? I mean, is that a condition we need to know?
The code enforcement department would be the one to hold all of those complaints. I am not sure if they accept anonymous complaints or not, but if they do, then we would never know who complained.
Well, if all these ifs are here and we deny this, what does the property owner, what's the responsibility of the property owner?
So if the issue of the encroachment into the easement cannot be remediated by the approval of this request, then it is my understanding that they would have to remove all of the improvements,
Including the porch,
any encroachments.
any encroachments at all, and go back to what it was at the permitted state of the property.
I'm not sure that there was ever a, well, do you mean at the time that the home was permitted or?
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Well, whatever,
Is that a
whatever is
30-year?
not legal.
30 years ago?
We wouldn't go back to the previous permit, but we would just go, not we, but code enforcement would likely require the removal of anything that is not conforming. So it's possible a portion is conforming and they wouldn't have to remove it.
But we don't know what that is.
I am not very familiar with the, give me just a moment here.
Well, page 59 reflects the covered concrete porch, reflects the existing concrete block porch, and that was the 9.52 feet that was recently poured that caused the complaint, code enforcement complaint. I don't see the city going back and saying, well, you got to remove a portion of the covered porch, but that was done recently. Theoretically, they could say, well, you can see the dotted line where the retention easement goes through there, and then the 9.52 existing concrete block porch, and then you can see form boards for proposed. So not only is the application trying to make it lawful or permittable for what they've already done, they're also wanting to form up and pour some additional, is what they want to do.
So again, the question is this a cease and desist?
Well, some of the improvements are already there. I'm seeing the easement now on page 59. Looks like there's existing concrete block porch. A portion of the covered concrete porch extends into the easement, and then there's form boards for proposed porch around dirt. So, I mean, they're already on notice that they could not move forward with anything else, any other improvements without a building permit. And if they were to submit a building permit for any additional improvements, it would be denied if the improvements were within the easement.
And does this covered porch have to be torn down?
I don't see that happening. It's been there 30 years.
Okay, I mean,
Right.
that's
don't
where
see
I
that
am.
happening.
It's
That was my
difficult to.
question. What has to be done if we say no?
So this matter is simply resolving the issue of the request for an easement vacation. If you say no, then code enforcement would later deal with whatever remediation there is, if any, of the encroachment.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Somebody decided to do an additional to the covered porch and put the construction material in. Somebody then complained. And then we looked at the situation and the conditions had greatly varied. Is that accurate?
Is that correct, Mr. Fontes?
So the conditions greatly varied?
Yes.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, the water depth and the storage is a variation.
You're talking about the pond? That's from the report that was issued by the engineer. So the report shows that there may be or that there likely is a difference in elevation of the pond bottom.
3 feet.
Well, I saw 1.5 feet, but
Oh, I thought 18 minus 15 is 3.
it shows.
I'm an English teacher, not a mathematician, so we might be careful on this.
The page 63 shows, and again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't want to be interpreting this. Maybe Mr. Rice can interpret that better. But it shows the existing pond bottom elevation 17 feet and the permitted pond bottom elevation 15.5 for a difference of 1.5.
Well, again, looking at page 59, it's clear, at least to me, that where that existing concrete block porch has been poured recently, someone filled up to 20 feet because you can see the dotted line where the 20 feet is. That originally probably was around 18 or 19. You can see how it bulges out in that location. I mean, I'm not suggesting tonight that we deny something. I'm suggesting we need more information.
And it's possible that we could have the city engineer attend a subsequent meeting. I'm not sure what the schedule of the city engineer is right now, so I can't commit to that, but
I think that would be great, but I think also we need to know what the volume is currently. Will it hold the 2.94 feet whenever we can easily see that the elevation is a lot different? Member Richardson, and then Member Rice.
Yes, I'm sure Member Grant and the attorney remember cases on code enforcement that was behind Cathedral Pines. And it went on for months. Whereas I recall it was a portion of a slab for a carport. And the homeowners appeared in opposition, and the slab covered part of a drainage ditch, I believe it was.
It was an easement, just as this.
Okay, an
case.
easement. And he was finally ordered to take it down.
Yes, that's right. The concrete was ordered to be removed, and he brought the property into compliance by doing so.
Member Rice.
Okay. See, I go back to the cut and fill, because the diagram on page 63, I think that we were looking at, and you go back to page 57 with what the engineer says was cut and fill, and they're offsetting the volumes is what they're trying to do here, so there's no net loss. But now that you bring up that one with the pond, existing pond bottom elevation, if you look at that diagram again, you see the cut area that the engineer is proposing is in orange, okay? And it goes all the way down to permit bottom elevation 15.5. But if the pond is not at 15.5 and it truly is at 17, then how can he do this cut the way he's saying he can do the cut? So it's very confusing. I think, we do need more information. I don't think we can approve this. I think we can table it, but that's about the best we can do and get clarification on things if we don't want to deny it.
May I ask another question?
Yes, go ahead.
So the example that the attorney has given, would you establish that as a precedent?
That's just a similar
example?
scenario that could be provided as an example for how code enforcement would implement the code compliance.
But not precedent?
I don't know that word would be appropriate, no, because each case is evaluated on the merits of what the violation may be. Tonight, you're looking at an easement vacation request, which is, would allow the property to be in compliance with the code if the easement vacation is granted. If there's additional information that this commission needs, then just please specify, and we would be happy to provide that if you would like to table this item.
I think that might be the best. I'm concerned that the property owner needs to do some deconstruction, and what level of deconstruction he needs to do.
Okay, any further questions, comments, or if not, do we have a motion? Member Grant?
So I'm really confused about this whole thing, but am I correct in assuming that the problem here is that the drawing is not correct as it is? I mean,
I think probably the drawing is correct, but the assumption that the required volume is that we're quoted is based upon the original permitted bottom, and that's not in reality the way it is today. It's by their own drawing shows it's the existing pond bottom 17 feet. That's what their drawing shows.
I think we should table this thing till we can learn more about
You
it.
want to make that motion? We have a motion to table for additional information. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? We have a second?
Well, I think that Chelsea made it clear that we need to tell in the motion what is required, what we need to see next time, right?
Help us out, Mr. Rice. What additional information do you think we need?
Well, I think we need the as-built surveys of the original pond to see if it was built, because this says permit, it doesn't say as-built, so that bothers me some. Two is, I believe when I got on the St. John's website today and looked at this, I believe they've already gone to St. John's and got their approval to do exactly this. Okay? If they did, there might be additional documentation that would help clarify, that the engineer can provide us to clarify exactly this, because I can't believe that St. John's would approve something for a storage volume issue if it was truly a storage volume issue, okay? So, I think we need to have the engineer here, okay, that did these calculations, okay? Because there's too many questions and too many discrepancies in this one section AA that doesn't match the narrative or match the cut and fill quantities, because they can't cut something below the grade that's existing. And that's exactly what section AA says they're gonna do, to make up the quantity.
I'll
Okay.
second Member Grant's motion, as long as we figure out exactly how to interpret it for Lori, what's required.
May I read back the three items that you listed?
Certainly, go ahead.
The as-built of the pond, the documentation provided to the St. Johns River Water Management District to show that there's no storage volume issue, and requesting the presence of the city engineer for clarification.
I think, I don't know that I'm putting that burden on the city engineer. I think the engineer that did these calculations,
Oh, I see.
okay, is what he's the guy that's the expert for what he's proposing. And he can probably shed a lot more light on this than the city engineer could at this point.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank
Right,
you.
I agree. Certainly, the applicant should, it's burden's on him to show that it is in compliance. Okay, let's have a roll call on the motion to table.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Member Riley?
yes,
Secretary Richardson?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Spidel? Yes. Member Rice?
Yes.
Member Porter?
Yes.
Chairman Severs?
Yes. Next is petitions to request from the public. Anyone, any petition to request from the public? Not seeing any. Moving along, reports, city council summary of action. Staff?
I have no report on the city council summary of action. I do have one announcement. I'd just like to announce that this will be my last meeting with the commission. I've accepted another position with another county, and I'd just like to say that it's been an honor to serve the city and to serve you all as your liaison. And I have really enjoyed getting to know every one of you. And thank you for the time that we spent together working to make the city of Titusville better. Thank you.
We certainly will miss you, sir. Very
And
much so.
just to make the record clear, we did not chase you off.
Nice, sir.
Gabriel, I'd like to personally thank you too for a lot of patience in answering a lot of my dumbest questions and clarifying things. Thank you so much, and best wishes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And at least this commission, as well as all of the city of Titusville are going to miss you.
Thank you, sir.
Mims too.
Okay, again, council summary, any comments, questions by staff or members of the commission? On page, yes, Mr. Rice.
I just want to share with you, based on the topic that you brought up with having alternates being able to participate but not vote, I will tell you, I only stayed for the first item on my very first meeting as an alternate, and primarily because I got up and spoke at the public, and realized that I had so much more to say, especially after I heard the discussion that you guys had, and I could not do that because I had already gotten up and used my 3 minutes. So I think this is a good move. If you have alternates that want to participate, obviously they can't vote on it, but it would have allowed a healthier discussion from my perspective anyways as an alternate. So I just want to share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, what is the process of getting this amendment?
Well, on Monday, I sent in since it wasn't on the agenda, I sent in a draft and I passed that out to all of you.
Yeah.
And that's simply a draft. I'm certainly not suggesting we vote on that tonight.
I would like to suggest that a motion be made for the commission to have an amendment to the bylaws be drafted for the next meeting.
So moved.
We have a second.
Chairman, so
Any
you,
discussion? Yes, sir.
you said you sent out a draft to everybody? I haven't seen that draft.
I haven't either.
This-
That, there at the bottom, the very last,
I get it tonight.
I would recommend the provision to be changed. At some point in time, I would like staff to address, I deliberately send these out in advance for staff to comment upon, but I assumed that they would be forwarded on to the commission members, and the recommendation as far as the minutes changed, nor this was sent on. Is there a problem?
I believe when that was sent out by you, it was sent back out to all the members. There may have
No.
been.
No, it was, but we talked about the content, and the reason that items 1 and 4 were not shared with all of the members because we decided that they should be discussed as a commission and voted upon. The minutes for number 1 is an amendment to the minutes, and if you would like to make an amendment to the minutes that is significant, that's why we brought it up in discussion and was voted upon in the beginning of the meeting. With number 4, an amendment to the bylaws, again, the staff felt that there should be a motion from this commission and something presented in writing, which we have today, and we're going to move forward based on the writing that was presented at this meeting that you all have just voted upon. These are action items.
I understand that, but if a member of the commission sends out 3 days before the meeting information for the board,
And the city would be a liaison, sharing one member's opinion of something you would be voting upon at a public meeting, that the public is not on notice of. That's just the basic premise of the Sunshine Law.
I think we're different interpretations.
Well, we're having the same discussion we've had earlier about this same subject, and I respectfully disagree because you can easily say to the rest of the boards, please do not comment or respond to Chairman Seaver's request. This is information provided for you to be discussed at the upcoming meeting. And but now I understand why it wasn't sent out. And particularly with regard to the amendment, it's clear in my mind after the minutes as well that the statement was made that this could be voted upon at this meeting. And so I assumed it would be on the agenda for that purpose, and it was not. So I prepared something, doing what I thought was going to be done. But in any event, we do have a motion, a second. Do we need a vote on the motion? Have we had a vote on it?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Secretary Richardson?
Yes.
Member Porter?
Yes.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Spido? Member Rice?
Yes.
Member Grant?
Yes.
Chairman Severs?
Yes. Going back to our agenda, we were on the item dealing with council summary of action. As indicated, there was some discussion at the meeting about the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the council pretty well indicated that a commission member is not needed to attend the city council meetings due to the availability of minutes and videos of their meetings, etc. Council also discussed their appreciation of the hard work completed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I did attend as you requested, and was available if they had any questions. I was not called upon. Certainly the council appreciated and verbally said, as well as staff, our time and effort we had spent on the brew pub ordinance as well as the tiny homes ordinance. Staff as well as council appreciated our input for that. Turning next, city staff, any report?
No.
Okay, city attorney? Okay. I did receive, like all of you, a resignation from a member. And for the record, I think we would encourage we take no action on this. It's not our purview, but I think we should indicate our appreciation for the time of service of this former member and recommend to council that they take appropriate action to thank the member for participation with us. The other thing I want to stress, I tried to at the last meeting start anew a little bit about cooperation between staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would continue to encourage that. And I think we all need to work together. That doesn't mean we won't have lots of questions which we think are appropriate. But by cooperation, I think we can achieve more that way than confrontation as such. The next item I have is the action taken as reflected in the minutes on the brew pub was to direct that it to be go back and basically start over with further direction that the issue dealing with outdoor seating and outdoor entertainment be addressed perhaps separately in an ordinance. I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I'm only bringing this up to provide input of staff. I think it's important, like we have done in other ordinances of the city, and I can provide examples. We do address some outdoor entertainment, outdoor seating in those, particularly dealing with bars and taverns, etc. And I would encourage those issues not to be completely overlooked. I think it's going to take quite some time to address outdoor seating and outdoor entertainment because those can be very controversial or as well as substantive matters and issues. That's just a comment from me. as such. The other issue I would just like to express a question about, and do not expect a response tonight, and I will hand down and accordingly. I see construction activity has started on Brookshire. And this is a copy of the permit. You may recall that on Brookshire development, we addressed that issue and were heavily involved in ordinance number 27-2019. The land development permit that was issued in September, I think September 19th, 2009. Yes, it shows September 19th, 2019. Brookshire had requested council review its ordinances dealing with the area of critical concern on May the 28th, 2019. And just before the city council took final action on the ordinance they requested being reviewed, they came in and got their permit. And that was issued, again, September 19th. As I see it, the city did issue an addendum to the permit that says under NUMFA, addendum as of 12/2/2019, ponds shall be constructed in accordance with ordinance 27-2019. My question for staff, and don't expect an answer tonight, have they submitted revised drawings? Or are they proceeding solely under the original permit that was issued on 9/19/2019? Because as I see it, if they comply with ordinance number 27/2019, there would have to be revisions to the engineering plans. So I'm just curious.
We'll be happy to provide you an answer.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, are there any other reports from members? Member Richardson.
Well, I guess we can excuse you from going to the next council meeting since it was,
I don't mind going and just say I'm there if you have any questions.
the original motion was
For this month.
this month, but we can excuse you from going. Council made it clear that you didn't have to be there.
Okay, sir. Okay. Any other reports? One other question I guess I have is, what's the status of the tree ordinance?
It is still undergoing staff revision, but something should be sent out in the next few weeks,
Okay,
a rendition of it.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Member Porter, any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Member Grant?
No questions or comments, sir.
Bidell? Richardson? Member Riley?
No.
No questions. All right. No other business to come before the commission. The meeting is adjourned.